Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bear Chats. My name is Scott Cordischi, social media specialist here at Brown University. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to Bear Chats today three gentlemen who are doing a lot during this COVID-19 pandemic that we are all dealing with right now. From the men's water polo team, Will Collier and Aiden Riley, and from the men's tennis team, Ben Collier. First of all, Will, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing great. Will, thank you for joining us. Your brother, Ben Collier, a member of the men's tennis team, is with us. Ben, how are you?
Great, Scott. Hope you're doing the same.
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ben. And Aiden Riley, junior from the men's water polo program, is with us. Aiden, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you.
Are you out in Los Angeles or still here in Providence?
I'm out in Los Angeles.
Okay. I hope everybody's safe and healthy in your neck of the woods. All right, Will, I want to start with you because we talked about this last week when we did a town hall meeting for the Friends of Brown Water Polo, and that was the first that I had learned of the Farmlink project. Why don't you tell us and tell everybody who's watching what this is all about?
So Farmlink, the Farmlink project is a project that we started with a couple other friends of ours from Brown and a couple other kids that are from other universities around the country. And the idea really started when a lot of the news coverage became sort of in the front of the news about these farms that have surplus food and how they're wasting so much produce and milk and dairy. But then also these food banks where you see these mile-long lines and they're not able to provide for all these families that are in need right now. And so it started with the idea, well, why can't you take this food that's going to waste and give it to these food banks? And so we started about 3 weeks ago. The first transport was seen through in California. Aiden and a couple of our other members saw a shipment of 50,000 pounds of onions moved from Idaho to California. And since then, it's just all been about scaling up the operation, seeing that we were able to make this difference and make this connection and trying to expand it to help as many people across the country as we can.
So, Aiden, I saw the picture on your website, the farmlinkproject.org, of that onion farm in Idaho that was going to bury, I don't know what it was, 1 million pounds plus of onions because they were going to go to waste. And then you guys came up with the idea to start this so that stuff wouldn't go to waste and help the food banks, right, that are so desperate in need of food right now for the people that are as well.
Yeah. So those onions were, they were coming from a farm up in Oregon, and it actually we found that farmer through an article that actually kind of inspired the idea. It was a New York Times article written by a Brown grad talking about the food waste, and that was one that was it's really an impetus for getting this thing going. So what happened was, like, when we decided to just try to connect the farm to a food bank, that was where we started. We started with contacting the farms that were mentioned and interviewed in that article. So we went there first, and that onion farmer was from that New York Times article, and he was burying 1 million. He'd already buried 1.5 million pounds, and he was like, "Yeah, please find somewhere to put these for me."
Wow, that's incredible. Ben, take us through the whole process of you and Will and Aiden and others coming up with this idea and then deciding, you know what, we can make this happen. We can see this to fruition.
Sure. Well, I think the biggest thing for us has been trial and error, figuring out the best way to connect with people. And as it's progressed, we've kind of broken off into two pretty distinct teams. There's the team that's focused on fundraising and media outreach and connecting with the wider group of Americans that aren't necessarily already in the agricultural community. And then there's the team that's focusing on connecting with the farmers, finding the food banks, and then taking care of the logistics needed to get from point A to point B. And I think that if we had just focused on one side or the other, we wouldn't have necessarily had every piece of the puzzle. But we've been so lucky to be featured in some of these media outlets and have just a really good group of people coming together to get our name out there and connect with people. And in response, we've gotten hundreds of volunteers who have reached out to us, not just to donate, but to offer trucks or ask if we're doing anything in their area, or in a lot of cases saying, "I'm from Wyoming and there's no food here right now, and what can I do to help?" And so that's where the crossover between the two teams takes place, because we're connecting with so many people that I think truly are hoping that we can help solve their problem, or that they can help us to solve some problems that the country is facing right now. And it's been pretty special to see how it's not just the 20 or 30 of us college students, that there are really a lot of people who want to be a part of this.
And Will, this is a collaboration of students from throughout the country, right? Not just at Brown University. You have students from all over the country: USC, Stanford, Dartmouth, Cornell, Harvard Business School, among others, that are a part of this.
Yeah, it's been a team effort. I think what has been really special about having people from all these different backgrounds is that we're able to reach sort of the different corners of the U.S. So far, we've made transports in California. We have one going through in Idaho right now. We've done a couple. Our first one in the East Coast in North Carolina is going through today. We have reached out to food banks in the Northeast, as well as in the Midwest, in Chicago and Detroit. And we're really trying to make sure that this isn't just a regional thing, or something where, oh, we want to get food to maybe some of the places like LA or New York, where we see a lot of the big media coverage. But this hunger, food insecurity, and food waste really is something that is affecting everyone right now. And being able to have such a diverse background of where people are located and where people have seen the impact, it has allowed us to sort of nationalize and try to take on the issues throughout the entire country.
Yeah, Aiden, I remember seeing a story on the news probably 3-4 weeks ago now about dairy farmers getting rid of gallons upon gallons of milk, and egg farmers having to destroy eggs, not getting them to market because they were sitting on too much of a surplus. Did I also see in your website that you recently delivered a large amount of eggs to a certain food bank somewhere throughout the country?
Yeah, just the other day we did. Well, one of our first deliveries was 10,800 eggs to a food bank here in Los Angeles. And then we just did 2 or 3 days ago, 67,000 eggs to 4 separate food banks around LA as well. But yeah, the food waste problem is gigantic. I mean, the United States on a usual basis, not in the special circumstances we're in, wastes 76 billion pounds of food annually, and that has increased during this time. So something I think we're addressing, and hopefully is after all this is over, this project can continue to help a problem that's already enormous.
So Ben, what you guys are doing obviously is extraordinary during these very difficult times. And it begs the question, how do you juggle being a student athlete, obviously no athletics right now, you're not on campus, but how do you juggle remote learning and everything that's going on in your life with being a big part of this Farmlink project?
To be honest, I think everyone who was there from the start would say that it was a lot. I mean, we're all putting in a lot of hours every day just to keep this thing going, because I mean, we're lucky that it's growing at the rate it has, and it's exciting, and that's what we want to be spending our time on. I finished my last final yesterday, thankfully, and I know these guys are close to finishing up, but I think actually being home has allowed us the flexibility with our class schedule and our work schedule to be able to continue focusing on this and still getting through this semester.
Will, what's the feedback been like? I would imagine it's has to be all positive, right, with what you guys are doing here?
Yeah, the feedback has been incredible. I think the reception of the idea has been so enormous that that's what's really gotten us to the point where we are now. I think none of us really expected that 3 weeks in we would have over 100,000 pounds of food moved, such a large amount of donations coming in. I think 300 people have reached out to try to join our volunteer community, and it's just growing by the day. And so I think the reception has been incredible, and we're so grateful for everyone that has wanted to become a part of it. I think one thing, just to make clear, the way that we have been doing the different transports and paying the farmers for their food and paying the trucking companies to move the food is the donations go purely towards that. And so that's what we do. We collect the money, and with the money that gets donated, we then are able to reroute this surplus food to food banks in need. And so a lot of people that have been wanting to contribute in a way and haven't really known how to have really jumped at the idea of, one, being able to give a little bit in order to help out this cause, but also join our community, spread the word, and make sure that everyone really knows how big an issue this is across the U.S.
And Aiden, what is that website again for people to go to if they want more information on what you guys are doing?
So it is www.thefarmlinkproject.org.
And this is a nonprofit organization, obviously, that you guys are running. Let me ask you this. I mean, Will, you're a senior. Ben and Aiden are juniors. So Ben and Aiden, you guys have another year of college. But doing this, has it given you pause or made you rethink maybe what you want to do with your career after you graduate from Brown?
Ben?
Well, I think that this has been an experience that none of us really anticipated growing as fast as it did or impacting as much as it has. And I mean, certainly, right now, this is the project that I've probably been the most excited about of anything I've ever worked on. And so just given that alone, it's certainly, I think, given us something that we all want to see through.
Will, you are a senior. What was your concentration at Brown, and what do you plan on doing after graduation?
I double concentrated in economics as well as architecture between Brown and the Rhode Island School of Design when I was here. I am planning on, or I have a job lined up in San Francisco working in consulting, but the start date was supposed to be in August and has been pushed back to November. And so, honestly, I think the thing that has kept me the most sane and the most happy since I've been home, being that obviously the last 2 months of school being canceled, my senior year was not exactly how I ever imagined it playing out. This project has allowed me to put all my energy into something that I really care about and think is exciting and matters. And so, being a part of something like this does open your eyes to realizing, well, if I'm able to enjoy the work so much and be immersing myself so much into this, is this something that I could want to do for a long time afterwards?
Aiden, your fall season obviously was played to completion, but unfortunately, teams like the women's water polo program or Ben's men's tennis team, right? They didn't get to complete their seasons, unfortunately. But just talk to us a little bit about what your summer plans are, and I'm sure you're hoping that things will return to normal come fall.
Yeah, I mean, I think all we can do right now is think in the short term. But that's what I've been doing, and just kind of taking things week by week. But my summer plans are my summer internships. I was going to go out to New York, but that has been moved to an online internship. As I know many others who had internships, that's happened to them as well. So I'm going to be home here in LA, and I'm going to be working on Farmlink and doing my internship online and training for the upcoming season like it's going to come in the fall, because we don't know what will happen.
How about a future in broadcasting? You did some women's water polo games on ESPN
Yeah.
Plus this spring.
I'm keeping that in my back pocket. Vocal exercises every morning.
Ben, how about you? Just a quick question in terms of what your summer plans might be, and how have you found this whole remote learning thing? Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I think that each teacher had a different challenge with transferring their class over to Zoom, and so I felt like my professors did a great job with that. For this summer, I'm in a similar boat as Aiden. I actually had an internship that was supposed to start at the end of May. That's gotten moved back to, I think I'm supposed to start in person in early July. But again, I mean, it's also up in the air right now that I don't even know if I'll be working remotely in June or starting later. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, guys, what you guys are all doing is absolutely fantastic. Last week on Bear Chats, we talked to Maddie McCarthy, who's a first-year player on the women's ski team, who created something called Community for COVID in light of the pandemic. And you guys have done something just as extraordinary as well with what you're doing with the Farmlink project. Congratulations. Thank you all, and be safe, everybody. Hopefully, Ben and Aiden, we see you back on campus in the fall, and Will, best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, Will Collier, Ben Collier, and Aiden Riley with us on this week's edition of Bear Chats.